Yo, I'm Ham. So previously I was showing you how to use my cleaning kit to clean your vanity pipe. And if you bought that kit from me, decent odds you bought this kit from me too. So let me show you about this. So this is just a fog machine that I have heavily modified. It's going to come to you looking something like this. First thing you're going to want to do is figure out where you're hanging your piece. So wherever you hang it, it's going to be pretty easy. Just put a couple screws in your wall to hang under this top bar. No bigs. Figure out where that hangs. Now once you've put those screws in the wall and established where that hangs, you're going to figure out where you're going to stow all this crap. Maybe it's on the floor or under a table or whatever. Wherever it is, once you've established that, you're going to want to take this hose and trim it to a length where there will be no slack, where it's a single vertical line going from the machine up to the piece. Go ahead and trim that to length, and then jam this little dinger into the end of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. Okay, so it's important that you've trimmed this line to exactly the right length to go from wherever your fog machine is to wherever your piece is displayed, because any condensation that occurs in this tube needs to be able to drip back down. So what we'll do here, we're going to unscrew this cap. Go ahead and put some of this fog juice in. Once I have that reservoir full, I'm going to take this hose here and just kind of get it down into there. Now this hose here is going to allow that condensate I was just speaking about to drip back down into the reservoir. Because of this, after you've run this for several hours, an evening, whatever, you're going to need to discard any remaining fluid in this reservoir, as it's been vaporized and recondensed several times. You'll also need to use this cleaner periodically, every 2 or 3 tankfuls like that, because again, this fluid that's cycling back in here is half burnt and it'll clog your machine up. So periodically clean the machine with a tank full of denatured or distilled water or fog machine cleaner, whatever's going on. Don't leave this nasty reused fog machine fluid in there for extended periods. So I've got that hooked up. Now I'm going to take my airline. This is just a little stubby bit off the same machine I used to dry in the cleaning. Plug that right into that bottom hole there. Now I'm going to plug these machines into the wall. This fog machine will take several minutes to warm up. I'm going to plug that in, plug the air pump in. Now on the timer here, once this machine is heated up a few minutes from now, these lights will come on indicating that it's up to temperature. The red button here is power. I'm going to turn power on. The yellow button here is for timer. Oh, I'm not showing it here, but hopefully your kit came with a small power strip. Be aware that the heater on this fog machine will always be on anytime it's plugged in. So use that power strip as the power switch for this machine. Anyway, so I'll need the power and the timer button on. The dials here go from half a second to 10 seconds. This is the duration of the burst. I'm going to say leave it down at half a second, maybe 1 second, depending on what you need. And then on the timer, turn this up to about 15 or 20 seconds. And this is the interval. And this will make for a good amount of smoke through the piece on a fairly regular basis but will allow you a lot of operating time. So I'm just going to set this here for a moment. Next, I'll go hang it on a wall. We'll be able to see it hanging and operating. So as you're running this piece in display mode, you'll notice that you'll start noticing some condensation building up in these bottom bits. You'll have several hours of runtime before this becomes a problem. But after, depending on what your settings on the timer are, will determine how long a tank of fluid lasts you, and will determine when an excessive amount of condensation has built up here. So tinker with those. If you want this to run the whole day, turn the interval down to once every 30 seconds. You'll get your whole 8 hours out of it. If you're just running it for 3 or 4 hours for a party, go ahead and turn it up to every 10 seconds and you'll get your 3 or 4 hours out of it. Oh, it's just come on. Let's see. First burst in a couple seconds. Oh, got to prime the pump there. There we go. Now we're primed. So now whatever the timer is set to, that will be the duration and frequency. And let out a little burst. Mine's set to half a second every 10 seconds. And that seems to be plenty to operate this piece. Alright, let's go hang it up on the wall. Alright, so here I have it hanging on the wall, running in display mode. So I have my timer set to half a second every 10 seconds right now, and I like this mode. You can change that timing however you see fit. Running at 1 second, half second every 10 seconds, you get about 3 or 4 hours before you start to notice significant puddles of condensate in the bottom corners of the letters. You want to watch out for that. If you want to extend that time, just set it to a longer duration in between blasts and you'll be able to run it all day with no problems. Once you do get an excessive amount of condensation built up in the piece itself, you're going to have to take it back to the cleaning kit and run it through the hot water and alcohol flush and drying steps over again. And because you're dripping a lot of condensate back down the tube into the tank, the fluid in the tank is being corrupted. So after each use, you're going to need to throw out any remaining fluid and start fresh next time. If you're putting it away, if you're not going to be using it for a couple of days, you're going to want to flush it through with distilled water. Just go ahead and fill the tank up with distilled water and run it through half that tank or so. And every few uses, you're going to want to run the fog machine cleaner through it to remove any deposits in the heating element. After you've done that, again, flush it through with distilled water before putting the fog machine away. If you have any vape juice flavs sitting around, a couple drops of vape juice flavs can make the, you can scent the smoke however you'd like. I'm going to let this run for a while, then I'll take it down and go back through the couple of cleaning steps to make it new again. Stone it up and show it up. Alright, here we are back in the bathroom. So I've had this thing running in display mode for a couple hours now. And we can see there's some fog machine condensate building up throughout the piece. So I'm going to have to run it back through the hot water and alcohol rinse cycle. So here I have it hooked up. I'm going to run hot water. Same deal as before. I'm going to let it run this way for a few minutes, then we'll flip it over. Oh, gotta get my jam on. There we go. So, I'm going to let it run this way for a few minutes, then I'm going to flip it over, run it that way a few minutes, back and forth that a couple times, just to make sure I've gotten all of this fog machine residue out. Now the fog fluid's mostly just glycerin and water, so it's not particularly frightening, but still don't want to just leave it sitting up in the piece. So you don't have to have a lot of water running through this. A slow trickle is fine. And yeah, so I'm going to flip it a couple times and come back. Okay, so this has been running with hot water for a little bit now. I've flipped it a couple times. So now I'm going to go on to an alcohol rinse. Go ahead and pull. Oh, wrong way. I'm going to leave that hose hooked up, disconnect it from the sink, and hold it up, flush that water out. Okay, and just like before, to get much of this excess water out, I'll just give a good hard blow. Now previously I had used 3 different sets of alcohol, a dirty one, a salty one, and a rinsing one. This time I'm going straight to the rinsing one. So I had set that alcohol aside, so I just took the cap off and set it all up again. Then put this one on the mouthpiece, that's from the pump, and then this one is the return. Clip that on there, plug that in. Keep an eye on it, make sure you have enough alcohol in your reservoir there. And there it is. Now let this run for a little bit, flip it over, and then I'll be back. Alright, so this has been running for a while, certainly long enough to have flushed and diluted any remaining water in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and drain this out, unplug it, raise it up, then disconnect one hose, and let it drain as much as it can back into the reservoir. There we go. Wipe this mouthpiece off. Then I'm going to go ahead and blow through it good and hard. Get as much of that remaining alcohol out as I can. Now if you really want to chase this out, you can. If you turn it one way, it will move the liquid toward the bowl. Turn it the other way, it'll move the liquid toward the mouthpiece. You can just chase this out, but really you don't need to worry about too much about these little bits that are left in there. Blow out what you can and don't worry about the rest. If you happen to have a proper air compressor on hand, that'll help a lot. But if not, I'm just going to go ahead and hook up my air pump. Same one we used in the previous cleaning, same one we used in the demo kit. Just hook that right up there. Oh, make sure I actually have my line in it. Plug that in. And even with an amount of alcohol that bubbles like that, if I just leave this run overnight, in the morning it will be completely clean and dry. Go ahead and put the lid on this for later. And that's it. Now you've been kitted up. Kid on, mother kidders.